Hello everyone and welcome to all students in MSc Physics semester 4. In semester 4 I will be associated with paper number 4801. I will be associated with PPH 4801. In that I will be teaching you first unit. I will be teaching you first unit number 1, that is microwaves, transmission lines and waveguides. That is microwaves, transmission lines and waveguides. I hope that you all might be having the syllabus with respect to unit number 1. I have just pasted over here on the screen. You can see it. Microwaves, transmission lines and waveguides. In this unit we will be talking about transmission lines and waveguides. I'll give you a short introduction of this unit. That in this unit we will be talking about transmission lines and waveguides. Now let us think about just that. What is transmission lines? Forget about microwaves. Now transmission line, what is the simplest form of transmission line that you can understand? You can take a simple wire, a two-core wire, right? A simple wire or a wire which has been connected to your this mouse or PC. That is a transmission line. The line or a wire which contains the form of signal or form of information in the form of TEM waves, right? Transverse electromagnetic waves. Those are transmission lines, right? Now, these transmission lines, these transmission lines will have their subcategories. That may consist of two-wire transmission lines, coaxial transmission lines, then strip wire transmission line and waveguides. In general, they are being categorized like this, that they are two-wire transmission lines, coaxial transmission lines and waveguides and strip transmission lines. So, what are the differences in between these transmission lines? Is nothing but the information carrying capacity and the capacity to transfer the power from one point to another. That is why different kind of transmission, different types of transmission lines, different shapes of transmission lines are being designed, right? In this unit we will be discussing more about two-wire transmission lines. We will derive some of the equations for two-wire transmission lines. Now, for a two-wire transmission lines, we will discuss about two-wire transmission lines. For a two-wire transmission lines, there are some limitations up to which you can use the higher frequencies. So it will have a limitations on the upper frequency. It will have a limitation on upper frequency. Limitations on upper frequency or higher frequencies. You can say that higher frequencies is nothing but higher frequencies, so that in order to use transverse electromagnetic waves with more higher frequencies, waveguides was incident, right? Remember this. Waveguides are incident. Waveguides were invented and they are used, which is having a more capability to handle more power with higher frequencies. Waveguides can handle more power as compared to transmission lines and can also handle higher frequencies. This can handle this waveguides can handle high power at high frequency. At high frequency. It can handle high power as well as at higher frequencies, right? So that is the difference between transmission lines and waveguides. We will discuss in detail about the transmission lines, right? And waveguides. Then we are going to study line equations, impedance, reflection and voltage standing wave ratio. This all topics comes under transmission lines. Then in these topics we will discuss what is the characteristics of transmission lines, what will be the IV equation, current voltage relationship, because as the transverse electromagnetic waves are there, it will have induced current or induced voltage. Then we will study, it will have impedance, right? Characteristics impedance is nothing but the summation of imaginary resistance plus finite resistance, real value of resistance, that is impedance. Why it is having impedance, that also we will discuss. Then it will have reflection coefficient, because if you have joined in between two transmission lines, then there may be the problems where 100% transmission will not be occur. Some of the portion of that signal will be reflected back. So you will have reflection coefficient. These are some small topics, and voltage standing wave ratio, that is associated with transmission lines. After completion of studying this about the transmission lines, we will go to the waveguides. We will go towards the waveguides, right? The waveguide topics. In that, we will particularly study rectangular waveguides. You can see we will particularly study rectangular waveguides. Rectangular waveguides. Now, to understand this rectangular waveguides, we will have S parameters to study about the waveguides. We will have S parameters. Then we will study the junctions in microwaves, that how waveguides will be jointed. If a wire is there, wire can be twisted and just jointed with each other, and that will be the connection. But in waveguides, there has to be a specific shape of junctions that we will study. That is nothing but H plane T junction. That is nothing but H plane T junction, E plane T junction, and hybrid T junctions, right? After completion of that junctions, we will study directional couplers, isolators, circulators. These all are microwave devices, microwave components. This directional coupler, isolator and circulator are microwave components. After completion of this, we will go to the sources or the devices which are being used to generate microwave frequencies or to amplify the microwave signals, right? Or to amplify microwave signals. Those are microwave sources and devices that will majorly consisting of klystron devices. In that we will study two cavity klystron amplifier, multi-cavity klystron, reflex klystron, traveling wave TWT, magnetron, and then we will take some of the microwave semiconductor devices that will be consisting of gun diode, impaired diode, crystal detector, and pin diode. So this is all about just overview of the unit, that is microwaves, transmission lines, and waveguides, that we are going to study. Okay. So the first topic from which we are going to start our unit for semester 4 is two-wire parallel transmission line. That is nothing but two-wire parallel transmission lines. Now, to understand this, what is two-wire parallel transmission line? This is the simplest form of transmission lines. We all might have known that we might have came across the wires where two parallel wires are being going with each other like this. Two parallel wires will be going with each other and will be coated with some material. Will be coated with some material, right? Now this green portion, this blue is the wire. This blue one is wire. This green one is coating. Coating will be filled inside. This is the simplest form of transmission line, right? Where a coating will be there and a metallic wire, where you might have seen a copper or aluminum wire. Basically, normally you will see a copper wire inside a coating will be there, right? And that two wires will be traveling through one point to the another point and one junction to another junction. This is the simplest form of two-wire transmission line, right? Now, there are another form of transmission lines are also there. That is coaxial transmission line. That is coaxial transmission line. In that coaxial transmission line, a core will be there. A core will be there. That is also a conducting material, and inside that a wire will be there. Inside that a metallic wire will be there. This is a metallic wire, but the core is also conducting. This core is also conducting. This is also conducting. This is also conducting. Right? This type of wire, and the inner portion will be filled with the dielectrics and other supporting materials. The inner core will be filled with the dielectrics or the another supporting materials, right? This kind of transmission lines, are also kind of transmission lines. This kind of transmission line you can see in your Tata Sky or Airtel DTH TV connections. If you see the wire which has been coming from the upper disc to your set-top box, that box will be having a coaxial transmission lines, because that is also a conducting, that is also carrying a transverse electromagnetic waves, and that's also transferring an information from set-top box to our local TV, right? So this kind of used in our televisions. We will not discuss this kind of thing right now. We will focus. We will have two-wire transmission lines, more of our discussions with in our syllabus. This coaxial is just for our information. This is just to get the information. Now, this two-wire transmission line, we will be carrying out in our unit, and if we go ahead with this, if we go ahead with this two-wire transmission line, then they are usually they are balanced transmission lines. They are known as balanced transmission lines. They are balanced transmission lines, and they also do have one important factor. They also do have a higher upper frequency limitations. Their higher upper frequency limitations. They can work maximum with maximum frequencies below 1 500 megahertz. 500 megahertz. More than 500 megahertz, this 2-hour transmission lines will not be able to contain, because the radiation losses increases and other losses also increases. Moreover, radiation losses. Radiation losses increases. Radiation losses increases. This is due to the frequency limitations, right? As the radiation losses increases, it will radiate more amount of power, more amount of energy to its surrounding atmosphere. It will not allow to travel. It will not allow to travel. It will give over here. It will waste it over here. It will waste it over here. It will waste it over here. It will not allow to move it in the forward direction, right? So this is all about a small introduction. Now we will start our first topic, that is the current and voltage relation for a 2-hour transmission line. And in that topic we will find out the voltage and current relation between 2-hour transmission line, right? The topic name is voltage and current relationship for 2-hour transmission, right? Now, to find out the voltage and current relation, first of all, we have to see the equivalent circuit of 2-hour transmission line. We will see the equivalent circuit. Of a 2-hour transmission line, right? Now, how do we find out the equivalent circuit is? The first thing which we have to understand is this is a metallic wire. This is a metallic wire, and if you have a metallic wire of, let us say, length L, then definitely it is going to have a resistance. Definitely remember these things, because to understand the equivalent circuit you need to understand the assumptions, right? If it is a metallic wire, then it is definitely going to have some value of R. R is known as resistance. If a metallic wire is there, definitely it is going to have a small amount of resistance. So for an equivalent circuit, first of all, we will have resistance. Then, if a wire is carrying an electromagnetic waves, right? If a wire is carrying and transverse electromagnetic wave, then it is definitely going to have the magnetic fields associated with the wires. Magnetic fields associated with these lines. And if you have a wires carrying magnetic field, definitely there will be having a role of inductance, right? That is being represented by this kind of sign. Definitely it's going to have inductance. Okay, I think this is clear. From where to this is the equivalent circuit which we are trying to study. This is the equivalent circuit which we are trying to study, right? From where to the resistance and inductance, inductor L came, resistance, this is resistance R, this is resistance R, and this is inductor L. Inductor is nothing but a wire wounded in a circular pattern. That is nothing but inductor. If a wire is there and if it is having magnetic field associated with it, then it is definitely going to have inductor L. Now, these two components are associated with the length. These two components are associated with the length. Remember, these two components are associated with the length of the wire. Now, if we see the peripherals, then we have two wires in peripherals. If we see surrounding peripherals, then peripheral means the surrounding area, then we have two wires going parallel, right? This resistance and inductor L is associated with the length of the wire, Now, if we consider the surrounding atmosphere of this two-wire transmission line, then we have one conducting wire and another conducting wire. Now, if you know that what is the structure of a capacitor, then capacitor is nothing but this is the symbol of a capacitor. This is the symbol of a capacitor where these two conducting plates separated by dielectric medium. These two conducting plates will be separated by dielectric medium. This is the structure of a capacitor. Over here also, you can see that this wire and this wire can be considered as a conducting plates, and the material inside this wire, the coating material can be assumed as a dielectric material. So you will have a formation of capacitor in the two-wire transmission line, right? And that we will be including in this equivalent circuit diagram, right? The capacitor will be in parallel. Remember, the capacitor will be parallel. Why? Because we are studying, we are not associated with the length of the wire, it's associated with the surrounding. And the capacitor will be in this form. The capacitor will be in this form. This is the capacitor. Now you might know that if a capacitor is there, then each and every capacitance existing in any kind of form will always have a leakage path. Capacitor capacitance or capacitor will have a leakage path, and leakage path is being represented by the conductance. Leakage path is being represented by the conductance. So we need to have a conductance over here, that is G. This is C. Conductance is represented by G, right? Okay. So let us complete the circuit now. So this is nothing but the simplest form of the equivalent circuit. This is the equivalent circuit. These are inputs, these are outputs, right? This is the simplest form of equivalent circuit. In the input we will have V of x over here, then I of x. I is nothing but the amount of current flowing through the circuit. V of x is nothing but the voltage across the circuit, and at last we will be having voltage x plus delta x. Delta x is nothing but the length. Delta x is nothing but this length traveled by the signal. This is an equivalent circuit of a two-wire transmission line. If a signal starts from this point to this point, then there will be the increase in the length. That is component is x. Increase in the length is delta delta x, x plus delta x, that is increase in the length, right? Increase in the length. Okay, now this is across the output. I will also have same I x plus delta x. I is equals to x plus delta x, right? This is all about the equivalent circuit. This is all about the equivalent circuit. This is all about the equivalent circuit. Now, what we want to understand is we want to find out the relation between this V and I. We want to find out the relation between this V and I. We want to find out the relation between V and I. Now, pay attention over here that what happens when we have delta V. If we want to find out delta V, that is the change in the voltage, we want to find out delta V. Delta V is given by delta V is equals to minus of R delta x plus j omega L delta x into I. This is nothing but the voltage and current relation. Okay, let me write it over here. This is the equivalent circuit. Let me write over here because we have to derive the equation. Delta V is equals to minus R delta x plus j omega L delta x into I. Now this minus sign is due to, as we are traveling from one point to another. Over here, if the value is suppose I'm just supposing, if voltage is equals to 2 volt, then over here definitely it is going to have V is equals to 1.9 volt. This is just an example. It is definitely going to decrease. It is not going to increase. As it is decreasing in the in its negative direction, we need to have a minus sign, right? So V is equals to IR. This is the simplest formula. V is equals to I into R. So this is into I. So this term is R and this term is I. Right? Now from where do the R comes? Because you have resistance, and you also have the resistance due to inductor L, and the inductor L will have a reactance that is been given by j omega L, and with respect to change in delta x amount of length, the value of R resistance with its change in the amount of delta x value. But because the resistance is only due to the length of the line, remember line is of metal, made up of metallic wire. This resistance and inductor is only due to the length of the wire. Physically there will not be any resistor or inductor or capacitor present inside the 2-wire transmission line, but this is the equivalent circuit. Due to the length of the wire, that metallic wire, you will have R, and its value varies with respect to delta x. You will have value of inductor and its value depends on the amount of the delta x, the length of the wire, right? I think it is clear now. Now let us take limit and have a delta x common over there. So taking limit where delta x tends to 0 delta V by delta X is equals to minus of R plus j omega L into I. J omega L into I. So dV by dx will be equals to so dV by dx is equals to minus R plus j omega L into I. This is nothing but equation number 1. Similarly we can have for current relation. Similarly delta I is equals to minus of G delta X plus j omega C delta X into V. This is nothing but with respect to current. As the voltage, the change in the voltage value will be affected by the resistor component and the inductor component. Remember, the change in the voltage value dV by dx, that is with respect to x length, is responsible for the resistance value and inductor value. Similarly, the change in the current value is responsible for the leakage path, the conductance and the capacitor. This C capacitor, right? This C capacitor. The current is associated with conductance and capacitor value. Similarly, we can have limit delta x tends to 0, dI by dx is equals to minus G plus j omega C into V. That is equation number 2. Right? Now, ahead, differentiating equation number 1. Now, differentiating equation number 1, we will get d square b by dx square is equals to minus 1 into R plus j omega L into di by dx. Differentiating equation number 1, we will have di by dx. Now what we will do over here is, we have this di by dx. We will substitute the value of di by dx over here. We will substitute the value of di by dx over there, and we will get is d square v by dx square is equals to R plus j omega L into G plus j omega C into V. Right? Now, let us assume over here, now d square v by dx square is equals to gamma square b. We are assuming that it is gamma square b, where gamma square is equals to R plus j omega C into G plus j omega, this is L, G omega L and omega C, right? where Z is the series impedance, where here R plus j omega L is equals to Z is the series impedance, right? And G plus j omega C is Y is equals to Y, which is shunt admittance. Which is nothing but shunt admittance, right? Now we have also gamma is equals to alpha plus j beta, right? Alpha plus j beta, where alpha is nothing, alpha is equals to alpha is nothing but attenuation constant, beta is nothing but phase constant, and gamma is equals to propagation constant. Right? Gamma is nothing but propagation constant. Why attenuation and phase constant and propagation constants comes into picture? This comes into picture because the electromagnetic waves or the information signal is traveling from one point to another point. It's traveling from one point to another point. As the signal is traveling from one point to another point, it will definitely going to have the change in it, some of the parameters or some of the values, and that change is nothing but attenuation. It is known as attenuation. That change can be in the form of voltage, then current, or phase. That change can be in the form of voltage, current, or phase, or maybe in the direction. Right? So this is about the gamma. Now, for a transmission line, if we assume a finite transmission line, that is we'll have resistance, we will have inductor, we will have a capacitor over here, we will have G, we will have C, R, L. If we assume finite of delta x, this is as x, v, I, this is v of delta x, right? Then if we assume a finite, then what happens that due to the mismatch in the wave, in this transmission line, the signal which is been traveling from this point will be reflected there, and you will have the reflection in the signal. Why you will have reflection, that we will study later on. But due to that reflection value, due to this reflection value, we will be having due to this reflection value, we will be having the total voltage on the line is given by V is equals to V1 e raised to minus of gamma x plus V2 e raised to minus of gamma plus gamma x, right? And now we can also have the terms that is V is equals to V1 e raised to minus of alpha plus j beta into x plus V2 e raised to e raised to alpha plus j beta into x. Now this first term and the second term, this first term is the incident or the sending wave. This is incident or sending wave, and this is the reflected wave. Because we have the reflection, it will have a reflected wave. So this can be written as, this can be written for current also. This can be written as for current also. That is V for an x of length. X is equals to Vs. S is nothing but the sending wave. E raised to minus gamma x plus V of R e raised to plus of gamma x. R is nothing but the reflected wave, and similarly I of x will be equals to Is e raised to minus gamma x plus you have IR e raised to plus gamma x. You can over here also substitute the value of gamma, that is alpha plus j beta. So this is all about the two equations of current and voltages, which we have find out that how many components are there, and this is all about the voltage and current relationships in a two-wire transmission line, right? Okay, thank you.